since 2015.
Okay, but what about that report about underage voting? When is INEC going to come up with this report? Has it been made public?
Shortly. No, it hasn't been made public, but it will be made public shortly because after the committee concluded its work, it's submitted to the whole commission. There was only one national commissioner, some resident commissioners and others. Now it has to submit a report. It has submitted a report to the commission. I think the commission has considered it or will consider it. And in the next week or so, shortly, there will be a made public.
But Mr. Uzzi, you've been in the forefront of this recall. Almost everybody who looks at this recall, they remember you. So it's kind of funny when you say you don't know how much was budgeted for this process or this entire activity that you can, because you know the press will always ask you.
Well, I don't know whether the press will always ask me. They hardly ask me about how much we spend on a particular by-election or anything like that. And talking about things, in Lagos here, in Bejuleke, I think, there's 3.9% turnout in a by-election. So the fact that people don't turn out for electoral activities is not unusual. It bothers us, but it's not really unusual. I don't know how much was spent in that particular purpose. I probably have to go to finance and accounts departments of the commission. There was a budget for publicity, there's a budget for training, there's a budget for all departments submitted their inputs into it. That has to be collated to get the final budget. I don't want to mislead you and give you a wrong figure. I honestly don't know myself personally.
Now, one of the other items which a lot of people always ask us questions and tweet about has got to do with the collection of the permanent voter cards. At the moment, there's huge complaint in different parts, several parts who say, look, first, it's very difficult for them to get this card because when they start the process, it's outdoors. It discourages them. When you get there, it's either they ask you to pick a number or come back, or you have to travel a distance to go get it. And sometimes they come back in 4 days, you still don't get it. Why is that the case?
Well, let me disagree with respect about difficulties in collection of the cards. You don't have to pick numbers to collect cards. There are 1.4 million people in Lagos alone who have registered.
But is it that you haven't heard people say, I went to a particular unit, they told me to pick a number and come back 2 days after to come and collect my PVC?
Maybe for capture. I've never heard anybody say that about collection of cards. The only complaint I've heard is that one or two people have said, I could not locate my card. But never was anybody, to the best of my knowledge, asked to pick a number to come and collect cards. I have been to several, personally, I've been to several collection points. And there's in each CVR, in each registration point, there's an officer dedicated to give out the cards when people come to collect. And
even when they start the process, they don't ask them to pick a number and come back?
No, because most of the officials dedicated to that desk are idle. Very, very few people come out to collect. More than 1.4 million people in Lagos alone had gone through the process of registration but have not picked up their cards.
That's where the problem is. Do I have to wait, for instance, to go through registration and then wait to collect? Why can't we have a situation where as soon as I do my registration, I wait a couple of minutes, maybe max an hour, and then collect my PVC?
Great.
Now, is there any difficulty in getting that done?
After your registration, within a couple of minutes, you get your card, a temporary card. But that is just a raw capture, it's raw data. It has to be processed. The back end must be done. The laptop, the DDC machine is a standalone. It's not linked to a central server. You have to do the back end of
Why is it not linked to a central server?
Well, bandwidth for one. 2, the connectivity. 3, it is such that you must run AFIS. And AFIS takes time. You must run the AFIS of each registrant against all those who have been captured in that unit, all those who are captured in local government in the state. And eventually, you have to run AFIS against all that are in our database, over 75 million Nigerians in our database.
Does INEC run AFIS all through?
Yes, we must run, at least up to now, to save time, state AFIS is run.
Well, it's a requirement, but not all of them comply.
It's a process requirement. It's not in the law.
So you're invariably saying that this can never be changed. That's the way it's going to be, and forever it's going to be like that.
No, I think with the development of technology, with bandwidth, with sufficient funding and things like that, I think we can have a more efficient process. But it's not like your ATM card that you go and just, these days, most banks within minutes or the next day you get it. Because they don't run AFIS. And your card usually does not contain your biometrics. So the two cards are quite different. The INEC register is a lot more sophisticated. It contains a lot more information. If you take your ATM card now and get a smart card reader to read it, it will not show your photograph. It will not show your address. It will not have your biometrics captured in it. These are some of the reasons why. Well, with the development of technology and hopefully with funding, then I guess that you can have a more efficient and quicker process for it.
All right, we'll go to spring time, isn't it? Okay, let's do that now. We'll come back and wrap this up in just a moment. Don't go away. Well, I'm going to read about 2 or 3, particularly as it concerns collection of the PVC.
Correct.
After they've gotten their TVC.
Yes.
I've got this one from Victor Ebereme, who says his wife has been to the office at Ijaye Ojoko here in Lagos severally, and the cards are not even available for them to pick up. And then I've got Onugbu, who says, I've gone to INEC more than 20 times to pick my PVC. Till this moment, I haven't gotten it since 2015. Sometimes they ask you to pay money to source for it, yet after paying, you don't get it.
That's very unusual. The first one is this: when did the person register? If you registered, say, in September last year, the PVCs are not ready. It doesn't count among the 1.4 million previously registered are there. Those will be ready from next week. Those who registered in 2017. While those registered in 2018 will collect it before the election, later in the year. So that may be the case. But you see, we have the one I keep talking about is the 1.4 million over the years that are just lying there. And I would discourage people from paying money. You're not supposed to pay any money.